You have tuned in to the Speak Volumes Talk Show with your hosts, LaKita the Coach and Rob the Natural. It's time to speak up. Let's go. Myself in this mic, but I hear myself now. Hello. It's not good morning, it's actually good afternoon. We are here on a Sunday afternoon today, June 6th, and I am LaKita the Coach Gantz, host of Speak Volumes radio show with my co-host
Rob the Natural,
and we are here on episode 6 with two of our marvelous guests who are here to talk about a very serious topic. However, just let me introduce them. We have Mrs. Melba Clark.
Hello, everyone.
And Mr. Lavar Drummond.
Mic check. How y'all doing?
Both of our guests are mental health therapists. And today's topic, of course, is mental health. And we want to look at it from the aspect of mental health for yourself as a person, for yourself as a parent with your children, and for athletes who also go through mental health issues. So my first question, I just would like for you both to give us a little bit of background about yourselves and what you're doing, so that the people know who you are. Go ahead, Lavar.
Okay. Originally from Jamaica.
Woo woo.
Grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I like to name all my schools. I went to Fairbanks Elementary.
Okay.
I went to Hutchins Middle School.
Mm-hmm.
I did Cerveny for one semester. Then I went over to Cooley High.
Cooley. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
Yeah. So, Fair State Bulldog,
yes.
Oakland Community College, Oakland University, Eastern Michigan.
Nice. That's a round of applause. That's a lot, but I know why you probably said I need to name all of them because of your experiences, right?
My experiences,
Oh,
all of it
yeah.
got a part. You know, I don't leave any of it out.
That's a blessing.
So I've been in education for over a decade now, leadership and education. A foot in K-12 and higher ed.
Okay.
I got a master's from Eastern Michigan in counseling.
Hey.
So I'm a licensed counselor.
Go Eagles or Hurons, whichever one you like.
Right. And so right now I'm practicing at a Path of Peace.
Hey, Path of Peace.
Right by Melba. So now I'll hand it over.
Hello, everyone. I am originally from Muskegon Heights, Michigan, born and raised. Shout out to them Tigers.
Those athletes out there.
Yes, we breed them out there. I grew up 8th grade, Muskegon Heights, Michigan. Then I ended up going to North Muskegon High School. That's in the outskirts of Muskegon. I graduated, went to play college basketball at Kalamazoo Valley for 2 years, and then I played.
KBCC.
Yes. I played 2 years there. Then I went on to Clarion University, and I played 2 years there as well. From there, I came back to my hometown, and I went back to Muskegon Heights. That's where I was born and raised. I went back, and I was there for a while. And while I was there, I was a basketball coach, and I worked in the classrooms, and that's where I got my passion for helping children, helping students to grow. And so one thing I learned in the midst of being a basketball coach, I noticed that a lot of times our players, they come and they're dealing with so much outside of the practice. So I started doing this thing where we would have like these circles before practice. It was like a check-in circle. Mm-hmm. It was where we would stretch, but we're checking in. We're kind of talking about, things outside of basketball.
You trying to come coach me?
Really getting to know each other.
Like you trying to come coach my team? You know what I'm saying? I think we need that.
Yes.
Need that?
Yeah.
Yes. And I thought it was real helpful. And so that's how I ended up going to Eastern, right, with Lavar, and
EMU again is in the
getting
building.
my master's in mental health counseling. I saw the passion and need for it, and I love what I do.
Amen to people who actually work with others and see fit to actually go out and do something about helping others, right? Mm-hmm. I love that about people. It's a servant mentality, and I teach Robert that all the time. Mm-hmm. You got it?
I got you.
That's my guy.
Being two mental health counselors or therapists, as you should say, what does mental health mean to you?
You wanna go?
Yeah, I'll go, no problem. So to me, it's being aware of my feelings, being aware, just emotional intelligence, right? If I'm sad or if it's something bothering me, if I could pinpoint it and know where it start, where it come from,
Yeah.
then I could take control of that.
Right.
I could address it. If I'm feeling a certain way and don't have no idea, that may put me in a crisis, right? And then if I can't get out of that mode, then I'm not inspired daily. I'm not motivated. So once I'm able to pinpoint whatever issue is going on with me, then I'll be able to work on coping, right?
Gotcha.
And then I could get in motion and do things on a daily. So for me, it's just being aware of myself. If we want to simplify it and make it simple for the people out there, just being aware of myself and aware of how I feel and why I feel that way.
Got you. Do you watch All American?
What's that?
Have y'all watched the new season of All American?
I love All American.
Did you watch the new season yet?
I don't think I've seen the whole thing, but I saw a couple of episodes.
Oh yeah, he when saying he got shot and stuff like that, he went to a counselor, and that was his whole focus of finding what started it, not necessarily who did what happened, what started it and sprouted it to be what it became to be. And he found that people might be hurt if you come to them and tell them that they might have been the problem that started all of this. They might be in denial, but it's going to help you ultimately to find basically what started your problem.
Yes.
Wow.
Getting to the root of it, right?
Yes.
That's profound.
And that's definitely what mental health is. For me, I love self-reflection and growth. And one thing I learned on this journey, as you counsel other people, you're growing
Counseling
as
yourself.
well.
Amen.
Exactly.
It encourages you to focus on the things that you need to grow in areas of your life, because we all have areas where we have to grow.
Yeah, because sometimes you can give like the best advice to somebody else, but like
That's
you
true.
don't know how to do it yourself. But you talking to them can help you as well, because you're realizing that's what I need to do.
And then you holding yourself accountable.
Yes.
And so that's the big piece for me, is starting to hold myself accountable for the areas in my life where I need to grow at. And mental health for me is, having my bag of, I always say this, I have a tool bag of different things, support system, the people I can go to, my therapist. You get what I'm saying? You have several different aspects of mental health that you need to focus on. It's not just one thing and being able to just cope, but having your whole bag of tools that's necessary for you to be able to live daily and have that peace of mind that you need from within.
Good. I like that. What makes it hard, though, for people to actually become aware of what they actually feel?
I would say suppressed feelings. Some people don't want to feel.
At all.
And because the memory sometimes is so painful, like Rob just said about the All-American, that scene right there, he wanted to go back to the root. Going back to the root may cause that uncomfortable pain that you don't want to experience.
Yeah.
Factual.
I'll stick with the awareness and say some people are just simply not even aware of, the place that they're in. They may just think,
like
hey, this
it's
is
normal.
life, this harms, it's normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is the norms for me. They may not even aware that it's a problem,
Right.
right? You could have trauma that's very deep, and it's in the subconscious, and you're not even aware of it.
That comes a lot with black people, for real.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that we go through on a daily, we just think it's normal because we're black. We really don't know what normal is.
Right. And
That's true.
Speaking of that normal, I remember maybe a good decade ago, it was just this rolling theme of being a strong black woman.
Yeah.
Right? And they
Right.
started to pick at that and say, hey, what is being a strong black woman? Is enduring all of these things
Right.
what it's supposed to be? Is that
Right.
supposed to be okay? Because
Right.
I'm black and I'm supposed to be strong. I'm not supposed to address these different traumas and issues.
Yeah.
I'm just supposed to accept it. And I remember looking into that and reading up on it, and several YouTube videos that was going on around. I just thought it was interesting, right? And it was an awakening moment,
Yeah.
right? Because we as a people started to see, like, yeah, it's not okay.
Right.
I should seek help.
Right.
And so that pushes me to the next thought or question. What do you, so as of right now, there's a national state of mental health awareness, and a lot of people are talking about it. why do you think it's changed in terms of the level of popularity? And I'm not saying that like it's bad, but back in the day, we never talked about mental health, right? Never.
Yep.
I was talking to Mel earlier, and she made a statement that her son said, you know, we talk about mental health in this house every day. That's not normal to our culture, but it should be. But how did we get to this point where in the world right now it's a heavy topic?
You know what? I think we're just in the age of information.
Okay.
Just like that, you know, somebody could tune into this podcast and pick up so much information.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Versus taking that walk to the library or being
Yes.
in the room with
Right.
people that's knowledgeable about these things. Because over a decade ago, if you was talking about going to see a counselor or something, like, oh, what's wrong with you? It's this big
Right.
stigma around it,
Yeah.
especially in our community.
Yes.
But now you have people being able to share information, share a tweet, and you get to tap in. You get to see videos, YouTube uploaded.
Yes.
And now you're enlightened,
Yes.
right? So now we're building up on this idea that, you know, mental health is a good thing to do.
Yes.
You can hit the gym and work out, and it's okay to take care of your physical. But why you can't hit that mental gym
Yes.
and do the mental exercise?
Yes.
So now it's cool and people understand that.
Yeah.
But when I did first start in 2013, the basis of my research and counseling was, where is that stigma coming from? How do we address it? Because that's just not that long ago. That's
So do you
talking
think
8 years.
So do you think, because you said where did it come from, and I always think back to white people did it when I came up, but for us as a culture, it wasn't cool for us to do
I
it.
think-
Going back to the whole thing you said about being a strong black woman, being
That's
a
it.
strong black man, all these things that society tells us or
Yes.
deems we should be doing, or this makes you this, but it was only for our culture to a certain degree.
I think it's a independence factor.
And I also think religion plays a role in it as well. You know, in our culture, you know, if we go to church, you know, we think sometimes that we could just pray it away. And you can have God
Yeah.
and a therapist too.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
You can have a God and a therapist too. I do.
Amen. Amen.
I'm a witness.
You know what they say
So-
about faith without works?
Yes.
Work.
And
Absolutely.
so you mentioned counselor, that word for me. I was talking to some friends about, because I'm in education right now again with young people, and I talk to therapists and social workers and counselors every day. When I was in school, in middle school specifically, I remember the most important person in my life was my counselor. Not just my counselor that was assigned to me, but the other counselor as well. We had 2 counselors. But these are 2 women that I knew that when I had that day that my dad was up all night with us acting crazy, getting on our nerves, taking us through the trauma, that next day I could walk into that office and talk to Miss Williams or Miss Jones and let them know what was going on, and they could talk back to me to help me get through these things, right? But that was that day's counselor. Today's counselors are not given those opportunities
At
to
all.
reach students in that way anymore because they
Right.
have so much paperwork to do,
Educational.
so much scheduling to do. And I purposely think that role was taken away from them on purpose so that we don't have those opportunities to open up and learn in that realm of education. Going
It's
back to
it can go to a lack of success feature when it comes to white and black people. You see white people, they think beyond of everything. So they see black kids are going through a whole bunch of stuff at home, but they're more than likely not talking about it. These white kids, they come home, they can talk to their families about anything. And those white people are the same people in power of those counselors who have to talk to the kids. So it's like they're putting their children in better places to succeed than the black child because, well, ultimate racism as it's been since the country has been founded.
right.
So it's just that sense of power and urgency, and then it goes to independence because black people have always, ever since slavery, they wanted to be independent. They wanted to do it on their own because they felt that they've needed these white people ever since they've been around.
Right. So that even speaks to after slavery was ended, they still stuck around on
Exactly.
their plantations because they didn't know how to actually
Go
be
do it.
independent.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Yes, that
That's
was a good point, Rob.
And to your point, Kita, you know, it's interesting because I can remember in high school, I didn't even connect my counselor with anything mental.
Me either.
I thought that was the person that did my scheduling,
Right.
right? Helped me out with the college app.
Right.
I didn't even know that was a social kind of outlet, social resource.
Right, which
Right?
is crazy
So
because
I
my
agree
high
with
school
you.
my high school counselor, I had Mr. Mitchell. I don't know if he was still there when you were there, but even with him, he was like that man that I know I could just go talk to, and he
Right.
was the one who pushed the whole college thing. Though one thing they weren't on was you need to go to college, you need to do this,
Yep.
financial aid,
Yep.
your
That,
packet.
my counselor got that right for sure.
We're gonna do
Exactly.
this. This is a requirement.
I think today when it comes to some counselors, depending on the school, comfortability. When I went to U of D, I really wasn't. When I went to the high school, put it like that, I wasn't really fond with the counselors there or comfortable maybe speaking to them. But I had a teacher, my Spanish teacher. I'll never forget.
Yes.
I talked to her more than any kid in the building. Like I was in her classroom. In periods, I had math. Like I was in the classroom all day just talking about feelings, and she knew me off the back of her hand. Like if I walked in, I looked a certain way, she knew something was wrong. So
That's
it was
that
like,
connection
yeah,
piece.
it's like if the counselors don't go out their way to seek who needs help or just seek people in general to just try and have a relationship. Relationships are key.
Yes.
You're gonna have a relationship with that teacher because you see her every day, but you
Yes.
see this counselor maybe once a month.
Yes. And I can speak on that as a school
Oh, yeah,
counselor.
you
You know, I was a school counselor. I think I've been delivered, but I'm a
Right.
school counselor. But one thing I've learned as a school counselor, I made it a point. I knew every student in my building, first and last name.
Wow.
And I also made it a point that whenever I would walk the halls, I made sure, you know, if I saw a student that was sitting in the hallway that didn't have any students by them, I'm going up and I'm saying, "Good morning.
Right.
How you doing?"
Right.
Exactly.
Greeting them. How was your day? How was your day? Night last night.
How was your day
And those
goes a
type of
long
things,
way.
like creating a safe space for them, and we don't realize just even
As
in
adults.
this world and adults in mental health field, it's so many individuals that go through on the daily, and just a simple "How you doing?" and a smile
Yes.
can turn somebody's life around.
It sure
Right.
does.
In that moment, just it takes 1 minute, not 1 minute, 1 second to say hello. And we
Yeah.
have to create that type of culture, create that type of space to just speak.
Exactly.
Be friendly.
And so I recognize that. I mean, it's sad, sort of, but in Michigan we don't have that. I feel like as a whole in our state, right? But when I go to other places, I get that feeling
Yes.
from a lot of
You do.
Yeah.
places, and I always wonder, like, why is it so different? Why can't we all be that way? Again, thinking with the servant mindset. But yeah, that one, just hello, how are you? That smile can definitely help somebody.
And one thing I learned that's part of the thing that I, love to do. It makes me feel better even when I'm having, we all have good and bad days. And so it makes me feel better, making someone else feel better.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And so-
Unselfishness.
Yes.
Yeah, that energy.
Yes.
So what are some of the stigmas that you guys still hear, or that we know some of them, but give us some of those stigmas that you hear about mental health, even when you have your first introduction meeting with your first client? Because I know they walk in like,
Yeah.
well, I ain't wanna, so what are some of those stigmas?
Well, some of the stigmas, most people that come in that haven't seek counseling, we kind of give them an overview of what counseling actually is.
Okay.
People don't understand that, yes, you're coming and you're talking about things that have taken place in your life, but the main goal is to grow,
Right.
Okay.
to work on those things, to become a better person within. People are coming with self-esteem, trauma, all different
Anxiety.
type of anxiety, depression, so many different type of things. And one of the biggest stigmas I think that I have experienced in this year with clients is clients thinking that you have to have a serious mental illness to seek help.
Thank you.
You do not have to seek. You can seek counseling, just like this is my favorite analogy I like to use. We go to the doctor. You get a rash on your arm or something. What you doing? As soon as it come on there, you like, oh, I better go call this doctor to see what's going on.
Right.
And that's the same thing that I feel like we should be doing as just entire whole community, everyone, when you feel like you can't bear life's daily challenges, it's okay to go speak to someone, and not just your friends. You know, your friends, yes, they can be that part of your support system, but you ultimately need someone that you can feel comfortable where you know that none of your information is going.
Right.
Exactly.
So that is huge. I think being able to be vulnerable in your sessions is huge.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'm gonna touch on that vulnerable piece, but before that, I'm gonna touch on the piece you said, like talking to your friends, right?
Yeah.
So like you could go to Walmart and get some tires for your car, right? But if you go to a tire shop, you're dealing with that directly. You know they
Right.
specialize in tires,
Right.
right? Your friend would be that person that you could vent to, and
Yes.
some people don't probably not aware that you got family members that's being your counselors right now. When you go see a professional, you being intentional and you being direct.
Yes.
Now to go back to your question, Kita, you know, I believe, like you said, that vulnerability. That's what it was for me. One of the things that my professor would always like push me to do is to go see a counselor myself.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
They
I used
sure
to wonder,
did.
like, I'm training to be a counselor. Why do I need to go
Right.
see
Right.
Yes. Yes.
And then as I got close to the end of my studies and I had finished, I haven't even went to see a counselor. Then I went and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
because you need to know how it feels
Yeah.
on the other end.
Exactly.
And the
Absolutely.
biggest thing that stood out to me when I sat in that chair across from the counselor was being vulnerable.
Yes.
Can I trust this person
Yep.
with my deepest kind of spaces to go to?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So one of the things that I make very clear off top when I see someone, it's like, hey, this is a safe place. I'm not revealing anything we talk about.
Right.
Confidentiality is key. So you
Absolutely.
can rest that assured,
Yes.
right? Integrity, ethics, and they teach all of that, right, in the practice. But, you know, I like to make that clear, like, you know, I stand on that because I
Right.
know how it feels to be on the other end
Yes.
and wondering if I could go there and share these pieces
Right.
to
Also-
really an initial stranger.
Yes.
Also,
And
it
I
gives
had
you,
the
like,
idea of speaking on that when they tell you to go see a counselor. And I remember going my first time and feeling the same way as Lavar. And once I got in, and it took me a couple sessions, like I wasn't vulnerable in my probably first,
yeah.
second, third session.
Right.
So finally I'm like, all right, I'm gonna give it a try because it's only going to help you if you
Yes.
do the work.
Yeah.
And so I started talking about things that was bothering me that I was dealing with in my life. And I remember the breakthrough that I had in counseling. And I was like, oh, shoot, this work. I said, this work. I felt so relieved that I had finally got out. And sometimes you don't even realize that it be tears behind all of that and
Yes.
everything. And so when I finally released, I was like, I could do this. And then I
Right.
began to actually heal from actually being vulnerable.
Right.
Right.
And you
Yeah.
getting that help you help other people.
It did.
Exactly.
And it really did.
Exactly.
Because I'm gonna be 100 with you, you know. And I had a sister. She was probably around my age, a black woman as a counselor. And I remember seeing her name, right? And I remember Googling, like, where did she go to school? And I'm like, Grambling. I know a lot of people at so I got to like, you know what? She's going to know somebody I know.
Yeah.
So in the back of my head, I'm like, she's gonna be at the one party, like, oh, you know Lavar, you
Yeah.
right? That's 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. But you know, kind of like you, I tiptoed into it until I was comfortable, and when I was able to establish that relationship with her, and you know, and just have that trust to be able to go there. You know, so that's normal.
Yeah.
Speaking on,
And you go to and as big as Detroit is,
Right.
oh boy,
It's
you
so
run into
small.
people. But one thing we've
So
learned,
small.
and one thing about counseling, I want to say that, you know, those are things that you talk about in your session. Like, if we were to ever see each other out, would you not want me to speak to you at all?
Okay.
Right.
Or would you want to speak? You
Okay,
know, do
that's
you
a good
want me to
question.
speak? Because that's
Yeah.
a good question I like to ask, because it's a big city. I'm not from here. I like to go out to eat.
That's a good point.
I like to go
Yeah,
out
I
to eat.
like
And
that.
so I like to address those things. If I see you out, do you want me to speak? Because I want to know your opinion, because I don't want to not speak and you be like, well, why didn't she speak to me? That doesn't necessarily me speaking saying, oh, you know, I'm your counselor. We speak to
Right.
everybody
Right.
every day. It's just a,
exactly.
That's a good question.
yes.
Speaking on these struggles, right? It's 2 questions. We can go to the first one first. What were the biggest struggles that you guys faced growing up that you think like helped or kind of worsened your mental health?
Oh, I think this, for me, the biggest thing, not growing up. First of all, growing up, I had an amazing childhood. My parents were awesome. But I went to high school from 9th through 12th grade where I was the only
Black kid.
Girl.
Double minority.
Wow.
And so it was a culture shock for me. I'll never forget it when I first stepped foot in there. My dad just like took me, and I'm like, my first day of school, I had called him. I'm like, come and get me and take me back to the Heights. Like, what are you doing?
Right.
He was like, Melba, I'm putting you in a better position for your life, which he did. I understood it, but it was very challenging not being able to have anybody to identify with.
Yes.
Amen.
And that was difficult for me. And as I grow, and this is me being vulnerable on the radio. Okay? As I grew in my life, I started seeing the pattern of me being in high school, my jobs where I was the only black
woman.
No, black, period.
General,
Yes.
Right.
You know, in the jobs. And I started seeing like that pattern, and it became a trigger for me.
Right.
And recently, that was something that I had to learn how to deal with, especially with what we're dealing with in the world today. It was very triggering for me.
Right.
And then, you know, my son had that an experience at his middle school, which is why I pulled him from his middle school. And it was very triggering. That situation, you know, we don't play about our babies, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so I learned that it was best for me to go deal with how to cope when those situations arise, because one thing we learn is that in certain situations we can get angry.
Very angry.
We can get upset. Our reaction is not what is appropriate.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
sometimes
Keita know
we use it as an excuse, right? We use it as an excuse, like, well, they did this, so this is why I acted that way. We should never give anyone that power over us.
Right.
And that's what mental health means to me, is being able to control how you respond to certain people when they have harmed you or hurt you.
Yeah. My mom said a quote like a good week or two ago. She said, "Are you at peace when you don't get what you want out of a situation?"
And that is huge, because one thing I learned is when you're going to counseling, the issues that you may have with other people, it's not about them anymore.
At all. It's all about you.
It's all about you.
And
how
just
you
let me
gonna-
tell you, I got that quote from Deion Sanders so that he won't say I stole it. but to kind of quote, right? Let me add to a parent part of mental health. So you're talking about your son,
Yes.
and he went through some stuff that you were able to observe, assess, understand.
Yes.
Like my son going through something.
Yes.
I think as parents, sometimes, you know, we want to put our kids in these institutions or these schools that have the high level of education. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. I
Yep.
understand. The highest level of education will help your child get to these, you know, mountain tops that you are hoping they reach, right?
Yes.
But the true essence of a parent making sure they protect their
Yes.
mental health for their student is knowing that they have some issues, and it's okay to pull them out.
Yes.
And not force them to go through these things that can keep triggering, keep messing with them, and
Yes.
I understand. Like I'm a firm believer of you got to go through some things and you got to
sure do.
toughen it out and
Experiences.
you know, cool.
Yes.
But I would
There's
never
a point.
choose that over his mental health
Absolutely not.
and him feeling like he has to maybe do something to himself, right?
Yes.
That never, fortunately, has occurred to my knowledge, but I know that he's had friends who have felt that way, right?
Right.
And I know that he has expressed how he feels, and I talk to him a lot. So as parents, I just want to talk about like us making sure we kind of ask questions and listen to those key things. Like you know, I know I told you guys this earlier, but him saying that his friend. Well, me expressing that his friend is always mad, and then him saying back to me, "Mama, all black boys are angry."
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on, wait, that doesn't orchestrate with me, because I know or I feel I'm
Right.
doing a good job as a parent. So why are you angry? But our kids, girls and boys, they're going through so much with the access of information that they have.
Yes.
That we have no idea that is, going into their bodies and their minds, and they're not talking to us about it.
They know yet.
Yes, and that is so true.
Oh my God.
Yes.
So it's a lot of good information circulating, but it's also some bad.
And I always say this to my son, and the reason why he said we talk about mental health every day in this house. I was like, you should, absolutely
Right.
Yes, we do. Even the baby, Miles, my baby boy, he'll say, just rocking through the house when I may be doing a video or something. Good morning on our path to peace today. Like it's so funny, but I love it because it's letting them know, that's the foundation that we're building for you to be able to talk about that and
advocate for yourself
and to discuss it.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think one of the biggest things of being able to recognize with your children is through communication, and not so much like, oh, how your mental health doing. Listen to your kids. Talk with them. It comes with time. Going into their mindset. I know a couple times, my husband always have to check me a little bit of times because, with generational routines that we learn, I'm like my dad. So I'm a little strict, And my husband will
Tell
say
me about it.
My husband would say, babe, you gotta chill. Like let's go into his world for a little while.
Yes.
And it helps me because I'm not like, oh my goodness, I'm not gonna listen to what's going on. Let's see what type of music and different things he's listening to so that we can see where his mindset at. And that's how I deal with that piece of it.
That goes back to the expectations and growth for me. Thinking about, we expect our children to be this way. We expect our husbands to be this way. We expect all these things out of people to be certain ways instead of just accepting them for who they are.
Exactly.
And then being able to take that and
gotta meet
use
them
it.
halfway.
Exactly.
Right. The worst thing you can
Because-
do is expect you out of someone.
Yes.
And that's what I learned as a coach.
Yes.
Like I learned that as a coach so quick. Like because as a coach, you're like, you should have shot it this way. You should have made this move. But
You don't know what's going through their mind.
you know,
Right.
and one thing I like just from that, none of my players or my son will ever play like me. He will never be able to replicate anything that I would have ever done because they're just not me.
Right.
Exactly.
It's
So-
a fingerprint.
Exactly. And I think people too much and too often try to get those things out of other people.
And that's
Right.
the expectations.
and then we hurt our mental health.
Yes.
Yes.
Because we're steady expecting these things out of other people.
It detrimentally breaks down their mind
Yes.
because they feel as though they have to take what they think that they're doing right out of the equation to do what you're telling them to do because you
Yeah.
think it's what you think is right.
And
but we don't
and
even know what's right.
He and I go back and forth like where I'm just I learned so much from
Yes.
him, right? I think as a teacher I've always been this way, as a coach, and now, primarily as a mother, I learn more from them than they actually learn from me because I'm open to what you talked about earlier, self-reflection.
Yes,
As
it's
people,
huge.
we are not open to self-reflection.
We're not.
At all.
And it's tough when you're not that person that says that you did something wrong or you could have done something differently or you need to apologize.
Let me tap on that too. Also, in that piece that you're talking about, I think that in our community, we don't like to accept constructive criticism either.
I wish I had 85 dings right now. Ding, ding, ding.
And that's huge in your self-reflection. And if you want to really focus on your mental health, constructive criticism, it plays a big role.
Or correction, okay?
And we're not mind readers, and we can't read your mind.
Exactly.
We don't know what you're thinking. And unless you tell us, and that goes vice versa. Constructive criticism for me. Like, I love to ask my clients, like, what do you think I can do better?
Right.
Think about teaching. I know everybody here is going to school. One of
Yeah.
You said
Everybody here is what?
going
Everybody's-
to school. You know what's up? Think about this. One of the things I bring to the table in my role that I play with the teachers that I help try to coach is, have you ever asked your student what they expect or what their expectations are?
yes.
Because you think that this student walks in and just wants to learn. This student may be like,
Come
I
to
don't
school
want
for
to.
lunch.
I don't like school. I hate
Right.
school. I'm only coming because my parent wants me to, and I don't want to be nothing. I just want to go work at McDonald's.
Yes.
To me, to know a student's expectations to build that relationships, help them to grow and learn.
Also knowing those expectations, getting a relationship to know that know their goals.
Right.
Because some people's goals don't intake with school.
Right. Don't match what school says you should be here to accomplish, right?
Right.
So knowing that you can have a conversation with them saying like these assignments, these are building you to do something bigger than what you're thinking. Because everybody in high school right now, especially because of the online stuff,
Yes.
they're thinking like just turning to work for points.
Yes.
And I'm a victim of that. I just turned in work. I just did it out there. I just sat in the car. I just sat in the car for 15 minutes and turned in an assignment for points just to get my grade. No one's really learning right now.
You're right.
Because they don't feel that they need it. Because my pre-calculus class, you can ask her. I have basically an A.
Right.
I don't do homework in that class. It doesn't count.
Right. So
It
I
just doesn't mean
basically
anything.
got on him like, what the heck is wrong with you? You got 22 missing assignments, right? So he has 22 missing assignments. He has an 88 GP, like in percentage. So for me, thinking about mental health, thinking about yourself as a teacher.
Yeah.
Why are you giving out that many assignments? Now I understand math. Don't get me wrong. I do get it. Like you have to do certain things in math and practice a lot to actually get the concepts, right? But I just found it really, really odd that a kid has 22 missing assignments and he still has an A in the class.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking about, so when as the teacher, what's your level of understanding that the kid gets it? You know,
As a student, you can pick and choose. Well, yeah,
You know, I'm gonna go back to the mental health standpoint. I think right now everyone is exhausted.
Yes.
And I'm just speaking from a parent that has been home working full time, dealing with everyone else's mental health plus my children, trying to balance that and being on a computer screen.
Yeah.
Teachers have children at home.
Yes.
Exactly.
Everybody is still trying to just
You have to
maintain
so
right
many
now.
things at the same time.
And I think that everyone is just like, we're ready for it to end.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
I really
funny.
do. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like we ready for it to end.
Yeah.
I know. For me,
Walking into the mall without the mask yesterday was like, yes. I was so like, oh yes. I just felt so free.
Wow.
and we're just so happy. And what I want to highlight some positive around mental health. I think because of the pandemic.
Well, before you say that, so the question is, do I have to seek a therapist even if something's not wrong?
I think that you need to be proactive.
Thank you.
Right.
That's what I want.
Learn coping skills. Learn how to deal with, before you respond. Just being able to step away and process whatever you need to process before you react, or and do something that you may later on be like, woo, that you can't come back from.
Yeah.
And to
You
bring
get what I'm
those
saying?
to bring those things together, the expectations along with the mental health.
Yeah.
I mean, you started out talking about really the expectations of your home,
Yes.
right? And that's that everyone's on page that mental health is important.
Oh,
Right, right.
absolutely. Everybody got a therapist in our household.
When you think about environments, all of that is set on expectations.
Yes.
You know, my work in education as a dean of students is managing the culture and climate.
Yep.
Okay.
So my main thing is to set expectations.
Yes.
Yes.
So sometimes we'll be in these inner city schools, right, with children that's dealing with all these socioeconomic status, poverty problems, social issues.
Absolutely.
And we think that they can't behave.
Right.
That's negative. You
Right.
could take those same kids that misbehave at school and catch them in church on Sunday, and they sitting in that aisle. Now, mom might have to cut an eye at them, but they tighten up.
Yes.
Why is
Right.
that? Church has a certain expectation.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And you know, in our neighborhood,
And that's the thing. We
yeah.
need to set the expectation high. When you set the expectation of these things, we're able to.
So I'm gonna give you an
Excel
even
to them.
deeper thought process. So of course I work in a suburban school district.
Right.
I worked 3 months after I left Eastern in an urban school district. So I walk through my district now, or my school now, and I hear learning. I hear students answering questions. They going back and forth. You don't hear a bunch of rah, 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 The difference is they have 25 students in the class
Right.
in the suburban setting.
Mm-hmm.
In the urban setting, I I was teaching 55 kids in one class.
I know you were.
So my smallest amount of students was 35 in my 6th grade, right? Well, you can't really control 55 students who
At
are
one
in
time.
middle school at one time. I don't care if you the teacher of the year, universe, whatever. So again, going back to these economic issues in urban schools, who can control the population that sits in that classroom so that you can have students sitting there learning? Because like you said, those same students in a different environment don't act like that.
Right. Well, they it's not that they don't act like that. It's as she said, the expectation one of the school or the teachers in suburban schools, they don't care. They will kick you out like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're not really necessarily focused on you learning at that point. They're worried about, oh, you're disrupting. I don't have anything to do with that. You're going to get out of my classroom.
Right. And that's perfectly fine.
Expectation.
It's perfectly fine, right? I'm just talking about what we can do as a community, a school district like DPS, and how I didn't have 55 students in my class, in no class that I ever had DPS, from K through 12. I don't know about you, but I never had a 55 student populated class.
Right.
Never. So in recent times, I feel like whether it's money, whatever the issues are, a lot of the schools that school I was in was overpopulated by 150 students, and they were still letting kids in 2 weeks before school ended. So now are you letting them in for money? What is the purpose of letting or allowing this many kids? Imagine we were in an elementary school building that wasn't even supposed to host a middle school. You know what I mean? So those are the things that I feel like as a community we can help mental health, because we do. I can't say that. I was gonna say as a culture we go through more, but I think all cultures go through it. I just think different cultures deal with it differently.
No, you yes and no, because
Okay.
you can go there.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I was just having this conversation with someone. I'm just mad I can't remember the name of the theory. It's like Mosaic theory, but I could explain it.
Okay.
And the way it's that at the bottom of that pyramid, you have people that's fighting day to day.
Oh, you talking about Maslow hierarchy
Maslow.
of the
Okay.
needs.
Day
Yeah.
to day to make ends meet.
Yes.
Absolutely.
To
don't know
find
about-
resources.
Yep.
I don't have time to think about next week
That's
Yes.
real.
or mental. I
There
gotta
you go.
put food on the table.
Yep.
When you deal with other cultures, they're not thinking about no day to day. Like
Absolutely.
you mentioned, they could tap into a week ahead and foreplan.
Absolutely.
Right? They got a full stomach. They could think about behavior and mental.
They don't have to
Right?
think
In
about
our
all
community,
that.
that's why you gotta give balance. You gotta understand at the same time with these kids when they show up angry and all that, right?
It's
And I
going
was trying to
behind it.
touch base with you with the being proactive.
Yeah.
As adults, we gotta have that emotional intelligence.
Yep.
And we gotta reach out and give the best of ourselves, regardless of what we going through,
Yeah.
because we will put that back on our children.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
Oh
it's
my
gonna
gosh.
recycle,
Yes.
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So like you said, some schools, teachers, or whoever don't. It's not a culture of speaking, saying hi, being a nice place.
That's real.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I noticed in the school I'm at now, in downtown Pontiac, we've set that culture.
Yes.
So even when students are rebellious against, because they don't even understand it sometimes, like, why is this person nice to me every day?
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary.
It
Yeah,
is.
it
But
is.
at least they have that
They
safe
have that
space,
same smile.
and they know what a healthy mental environment look
Absolutely.
like. So
Right.
of course, you always be proactive.
You have to be
Yeah.
proactive.
and keep that going regardless if it's a quote
Yeah,
unquote
because I
issue.
think as a child, for me, growing up in a domestic violent household, I knew good when I saw it, and my friends and their mom and dad. Like I used to be like, that's how it's supposed to look, and then I kept that in my head to know that when I get to whatever age and I have children, that's how it's supposed to look. That's how I want to be. This isn't right over here, so I'm going to do the opposite. And as all people don't have the fortitude to actually take the bad and say, I'm not going to do the bad.
Right.
Most people fall into that same habit
Cycle.
or whatever.
Realm.
It's like right.
Generational.
And I've always wanted to try to change it with my child, who will change it with his children,
Yes.
and on and on. And I teach that to the students that I work with all the time. You may be going through this, but if you can get out of this,
Yes.
you can change things for your family and your children as well. So
Yeah.
it's a huge. This is
you gotta put them on your shoulders.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think some people think that, you have to just because it's this way doesn't mean, just because you went through that does not mean you have to stay in that space, in that type of environment, in that type of situation. No. If you want different, do different. Yeah. And sometimes you can't do that alone.
Exactly.
Some people have to understand. Sometimes you can't do that alone because there's so much trauma.
Yes. So much stuff going on.
So many things that have affected you that you have to go and work on those things so that you can get to that space or that goal that you want to.
It becomes from all. It comes from like all of these emotions into one singular emotion, and it's like that's the only thing that you feel, and it's like in your mind you know you want to seek help, but one, you don't know how, and two, it's like you've only felt that your entire life. What is the other way to feel?
Yes, and I want to let's talk about how, I just have to say, shout out to Naomi Osaka.
Right.
You know, I think that was a big moment just in nationwide with her actually removing herself from the French Open, and the backlash that she received from saying that she wanted to focus on her mental health was so disheartening to me.
Yes,
right.
and let's catch our listeners up. So basically, in the beginning, she just asked to not give interviews.
Right.
And then they went from telling her what she should do because she's supposed to because she's the pro. They went from that to fining her.
Yes.
And then someone picked up her fines. Yeah. And then that went to, I guess the backlash was so harsh that she said, okay, well then I'm dropping out. You know, and I think it's irresponsible to me as media people, the way in which they handle things, and they go after our culture, because I believe that if she was another race, it would not have been taken out of context or dismissed so easily. I promise you that. I will feel that way until nobody can change my mind. If she was not black, it would not have been so harsh for the way in which they came at her.
Yes, it was real disheartening, and I think it was
we're
for
supposed
her
to
to
shut
be
up
able
and play
to be
tennis.
vulnerable,
right,
to even share her story.
Exactly.
And that's one thing we have to realize, just even as human beings. We don't have to have tough skin and everything like that, but I've learned, like, through going through counseling and stuff, people don't talk about you whether you're doing bad or good.
Yeah.
right.
So for her to be able to share her story, I know that she's going to help someone.
Yeah, she is.
She
definitely
is about to help someone. And so that's the thing that I like to shed the light on.
Yeah.
You know, that she's going to help someone else.
And allowing people to use their coping skills. So, for example, my son,
What?
he will scream at the top of his lungs in the house. Like, he'll just, like, go through this moment where he just screams. And
Facts.
I'm okay with him expressing this stuff because we talk all the time. And we'll be a little bit vulnerable. Like, my son has a therapist, but my son has a therapist because I saw the need for him to, based on what I saw at EMU with some of my athletes, my thought process was, if I want my son to get to this level one day, how can I pre-plan so that he doesn't go through some of the stuff that they're going through?
Absolutely.
So I reached out to the therapist. He was started in middle school, and I felt even then like it was helpful in the 7th and 8th grade. But then just recently, with him losing 3 friends to suicide, his grandmother passed, his girlfriend's dad passed a day after we met him. All of that was happening, and I was like, Melba, I need some help, you know.
Yeah.
And he never asked for it.
No, he didn't.
But I knew I need him to be able to open up, because even though we're close, it's still stuff I know he doesn't want to tell me or feel comfortable telling me. And I know that I'm not a man, and I can't be the father that, you know, to teach him these certain things. So let me just let him speak to somebody else. And I think that that's also us being good parents, like putting them in situations to plan and just be ready.
We're not gonna always be there.
Yeah, I'm not. Right, or we're not.
Gonna always be able
Let's
to
put
be
the
there.
spotlight on you then.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, you have a wealth of experience
Yes.
in mental health therapy. So and it's an open question. What has that experience been like? Or is there any takeaways? Like, share whatever you want to about it. I'm running the podcast.
No, it's cool. That's why we're here.
At first, it was kind of uncomfortable because you go in and it's kind of like that denial aspect. It's like, not that you feel like you don't need it. It's just like, I really don't want to talk to somebody random that I don't know. So like your first couple of sessions, you're really just trying to fill out the vibe in the room. You know, you're trying to get to know the person.
In any relationship.
Yeah, building a relationship basically. But once you, like you said, once you become vulnerable and you begin to speak on these certain things, and then you come back and they ask you like, how's that going for you? And it's like you have that person in your life who cares about things deeper in you. Because to 90% of the people I know, I'm just a basketball player.
Yeah.
Right.
To my teachers, I'm just a student. They don't know what I do outside of school, except for maybe two of my teachers, right? And to have that person who isn't your family member or your friend, who is going deeper inside to try to figure you out and help you figure out yourself, to grow and be your best self, it ultimately just brings you to peace, like you said, path to peace. It just helps you not only help yourself, but it tends to help you help others, because I have friends or acquaintances or whatever you want to call them, when they need to talk about something, they come straight to me. Like we talk about stuff, just anything, and I've been through some of the stuff that they've been through, and I'm like, I can help you through the situations. Like I got friends that literally come to my house and we sit outside in their car and we talk for hours and hours. And like just talking alone helps certain situations, because when you're alone, you think so many different scenarios.
Absolutely.
And you think it can go this way, this way, this way, this way. Then that builds that anxiety.
Yeah.
And then that anxiety comes, well, you don't want to do anything anymore. So that goes into depression, and you're just battling with yourself at that point.
And I have to check myself a lot to make sure like I don't push him to certain places, right? Because I know that he has a lot going on. He's an athlete. He's traveling states to state. He's playing. I mean, last week he had 3-4 games, and the first 3 games I don't know where he was at. I didn't know. The old mama, you know.
Oh yeah.
The old mama would have cussed him out, threatened him, and basically almost beat him up to make him do what he needs to do on the court.
Right.
But I kept saying, don't say nothing. Let him figure it out. All you can do is support him. Just give him positive feedback. And then that 4th game, you know, I like sending him text messages too, because I sometimes feel like he doesn't want to hear my voice.
Yeah.
I like sending him text messages. I like sending him inspirational things that I find on Instagram. I just send it to him so he can do it himself.
Yes.
But that last game, I just told him, like, you know, you're more valuable than just a jumper, right? I was like, your team, because what he doesn't, well, I think he realizes it, but he's like the heart of every team that he's played for. And so even last week, I'm like, you are the heartbeat. However you go, the team goes.
Yeah, that
so
energy.
If you don't have your energy up and you are not telling them good job and you're not passing them passes that they're successful because of your you're hurting them. So you need to wake up. I don't care if you score another basket. You got to do your other job for everybody else.
And you know what? Using that basketball analogy, right? That's kind of what I was getting at by saying going out of yourself, right? If you think about that Kobe mentality, no matter what's going on in his life, or what, he gonna step out and give his 100%.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So sometimes being in this cycle with our community and as parents, you could be having a rough day. I mean, you do it at work, right? Depending on your job, you could have a rough day, but you show up at work, you kind of put that to the side, you go out of yourself. So we got to go out of ourselves and give the best to our children.
Like,
yes, we do.
When it comes to like working, well, like I could put it in my aspect. I work out 24/7, then plus I have school, plus maybe I got driver's training, I got a radio show I got to do questions for. I'm traveling every Thursday and Monday.
Busy schedule.
Still going to school. You know what I'm saying? Besides that, I still have a whole outside life.
Absolutely.
That he wants to be a part of.
Right. So it's like
Okay.
it's like they both coincide with each other.
Yes.
You know? And you know, I'm going to make sacrifices. I'm not gonna have fun all the time. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna do my thing.
Yes.
But it's always a good thing to
Release.
just release and
Release.
put all of your stress and everything aside. Cause this weekend I went out probably Friday, Saturday, and today.
Yes.
So those Friday, Saturday, I didn't think about basketball, school, or anything I had to think about for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
Focused on me, and I had fun.
I know you. I could tell. I was hyped for you. You know, I was hyped.
Like I actually had fun. Like yesterday, I literally sat down and had a conversation for 45 minutes, sitting on an inflatable couch outside watching a movie.
That's what's up.
So with that being said, give us the tips about just a couple of tips before we end our show on how to take care of you or give you that you time so that you can protect and always have control of your mental health.
I always like to simplify things. One, just listen to yourself. If you know something's there, it's an issue. Don't ignore it. And I think as long as that awareness is there and the interest is there to get at whatever that issue is, you're gonna get there. You're gonna find out, but you have to first be aware, be honest with yourself that it's a problem,
Honest.
right? And don't be afraid to just admit that it's a problem. And then once that interest is there, the answers is out there.
Right.
You'll find it.
Oh, you wanted me to say?
You don't have to. You can end it, and
oh.
you can talk about Path to Peace, and you guys can tell us where we can find you.
Yes, at A Path to Peace, our number is 313-671-3188. If you're interested in counseling, we would love for you to call us. Our team player right here.
And I want to just put this out there. You did say something that made me think of this. I don't remember what exactly it was, but this village is in need of black therapists, and black male therapists.
Yes.
So for those of you out there listening, I mean, if it's an interest of yours to come into this community and do this kind of work, definitely look into it.
Yes.
Right? Definitely look into it.
We would love to have interns.
Hey. Well, I thank you both for coming on the show. Round of applause. I think we probably needed 2 hours because it's so much. But we will have part 2. And I just thank you guys a lot. She just cut me off. I'm sorry. That was the phone. Okay. But thank you so much. We appreciate you on Speak Volumes Radio Talk Show at Vent Radio YouTube Live. Thank you.
Having
Peace
us.
and love.
Bye. That was good.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in. Join us every Sunday at 11 a.m. right here on Empower Sundays on the Vent Radio Network. Support the show by sending your donation to $The Robert Davis Co. on Cash App. Stay connected to the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Roku, and the Vent Radio app. You can't be silent any longer now that you're a part of the Speak Volumes Talk Show with your hosts, Kita the Coach and Rob the Natural. Y'all come back now.